You are too late, sir. The meeting has already started and is about to end. I'll give you a quick summary of what's happened so far. Firstly, we had Socrates' philosophy of death, the immortality of the soul. According to Socrates, our lives are gifts of the God, and death is simply the natural way to free your soul and guide it to the eternal truth and virtues. Then, René Descartes introduces his concept of death, the pineal soul. He said that body and soul were separate entities, and the point of interaction between them resided at the pineal gland in our brains. That death consisted in the decay of the physical body and departure of the soul, aka brain death. And finally, we had Kierkegaard's philosophy about death. He says that death is an uncertain certainty. We all know it will eventually happen to us, but that can strike us at any moment of our lives. It's that uncertain certainty of death and how we feel about it that lead us to choose the way in which we live our lives. That was a quick review of the meeting so far. Now we will hear Nietzsche's philosophy about this subject.
God's dead! God's man's dead! And we have killed him!
God! Take him out! Who invited him to the meeting? Sorry about that. Next, we have the Midnight Question channel. Please go ahead. Thank you for inviting me to this meeting. Dear philosophers, we have gathered today from different eras and time at this table in the hope of finding an answer to this important question. You have taken the subject from a philosophical perspective, but since I'm someone coming from the future currently, and if you are watching this episode from a future farther than mine, I hope you have already found the answer. So, I will approach the subject from a scientific perspective. Welcome to the Midnight Question channel. Tonight we will answer the question, why do we die? If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and activate the bell so that you can watch the videos first. Like you, I have many questions I haven't found answers to. I have many fears, but my biggest fear is about the inevitability of death. Well, this isn't my fear alone. There is a form of general anxiety disorder, which according to 2019 statistic, 11% of American population suffers from, which known as thanatophobia. A person suffering from this phobia has an intense fear of death, finds it difficult to think about anything else, takes on the mood of Lana Del Rey, born to die, and thus can't live their life normally. If you look at the subject from the point of view of a person with thanatophobia, you will find it's a very logical fear. I mean, people die very easily. I'm not going to tell you about the 17.5 million who die annually of heart attack, according to 2016 statistics, the 9 million who die of cancer, or 1.25 million who die in car accidents. Let me tell you about what you don't know. About 1.7 million children die immediately after birth. 1 million patients die of AIDS, 720,000 die of malaria, 800,000 commit suicide, 400,000 in murders, 300,000 drowned, and 34,000 in a terrorist incidents. Me, as an introvert who hides in my room to protect myself from death, am I going to die? Well, what do you think the answer is? Of course I will die. The question here is, why do we die? Why don't we live forever by default? If I reproduce so my genes can pass to the next generation, my child will take only 50% of my genes. Why? If my genes really want to exist and ensure their survival, then I carry 100% of them. I mean, all the genes in me will continue to live as long as I'm alive. Why don't we multiply by mitosis, like bacteria, so I'd have two of me carrying 100% of my great genes? But is this really what genes want? In his book The Selfish Gene, the famous biologist Richard Dawkins says the easiest way to imagine gene is as self-interested agents. Each gene is looking for its own survival. They don't care about what happens to the rest of the genes. And of course, they don't care about what happens to you too. I don't mean the gene thinks about all of this. In the end, the gene doesn't think. But what Dawkins means in his book is that the observations we see can be simplified with this imagination. For example, in some types of spiders, such as the black widow or the red bug, there are genes responsible for the male having a desire to mate. And when the male spider finds a female and they mate, the female eats it. According to a 1996 study, the male simply prefers to spend more time with the female despite being eaten because the more sperm he can deposit during sexual activity, the greater the likelihood he will transfer his genes to the female, and she will be able to bear a child with 50% of his genes. Something I found very sad. The genes of the desire to mate led to the death of the entire spider. But the genes didn't care. The genes simply invested in themselves. It's not a problem that the spider dies. The important thing is the genes are passed on to the next generation, to the point that Dawkins in his book called living beings vehicles for genes. Meaning just like when you ride in a car, if the car is going to have an accident or catch fire, you will jump out of the car immediately. In the end, it's just a car. Yes, it's a bit expensive, but you can leave it. The writer saw that any living thing is a vehicle for genes. Okay, let's agree we are just vehicles for our genes. So why don't we do mitosis as we said, so we stay alive and all our genes stay alive? It's a win-win situation, right? Having identical copies of the same genes doesn't necessarily guarantee their survival. On the contrary, it exposes them to the risk of extinction. For example, if you take a type of bacteria and put them in a petri dish and let them reproduce through mitosis, each copy will have almost 100% of the genes that were in the first bacteria. And then you put an antibiotic on these bacteria. Of course, because all the bacteria are similar to each other, most of them will die. This is what could happen to us if we reproduce like them. Imagine that I'm divided into two people and there is a change in the temperature, or a virus like corona spreads again. If my genes aren't able to withstand the change, all my copies will die, and thus all the genes will disappear. The primary purpose of a sexual reproduction between a male and a female is to create different combinations of genes. That is, instead all of your genes being together at all times, which increases the chance something will come along and wipe you out. During mating, we mix and match our genes with someone else's genes. Maybe the other person you are mating with has genes that can preserve your genes, and thus there will be a greater chance of survival if there is any change in the environment you live in. That's why sexual reproduction is better for us or our genes in the long run. Now we understand that the goal of genes is to reach the next generation, no matter the means. But what does this have to do with death? I want to live. I don't care if it's a sexual reproduction or mitosis. Why our lives short? Why don't we live for 200, 500 years? Well, to understand it, you must know, life wasn't that easy in the past. Before the rise of civilization in the prehistoric ages, humans were hunters and gatherers, hunting animals and collecting fruits. They lived in the open. If you were lucky back then, you would have lived in caves. So they were prone to wild animals, changeable climate, diseases, and epidemics. The chance for you to be born and reach the age of 25 was very small, which makes the genes transfer from one generation to the next very quickly. From a genetics perspective, you don't need to live to 25. 25 years is too much for you. As long as you, a vehicle, have passed on your genes to the next generation, then you have done your job. You are just like the spider that passed on the sperm that contained its genes and died. Yes, I know it's hard, but until you do that, the genes must protect you very well from any diseases or any mutation that will cause diseases, until you reach puberty and reproduce. Since in the past we used to die early due to environmental factors or predators, the reproductive age was early, because there was no need for us to live longer than that. Let's assume we conducted an experiment and made the marriage age 80 years. Then only those who could reproduce at the age of 80 would remain from humanity. Therefore, only those who have the genes that made them able to reproduce at the age of 80 would remain. Therefore, the coming generations will inherit these genes and will have the ability to reproduce and survive until at least 80 years. Let's say after we reach this stage, we may start raising the marriage age to 90. So, only those who have reproduced at the age of 90 will survive, which means the generation after them will start being able to reproduce at the age of 90, which means they will live longer. We will keep doing that until we have artificially developed humans who can live for hundreds of years. Thus, we have answered the question, why do we die? If this is your first time entering the channel, in this channel we answer questions that may come to your mind while you are lying in bed in the middle of the night and can't sleep. As usual, if there is a question that comes to your mind in the middle of the night and confuses you, write it in the comments below the video so we can answer it for you. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like and share. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and activate the bell so you can watch the videos first. See you in the next episode. Is this possible?
Yes, it's possible. I'm dead.
So, is my time up?
Yes, and you have to come with me. I have to hand you in before the deadline.
Can I have a little time to finish the episode? I haven't reached the goal of 1,000 videos of the 1 million subscriber yet.
I'm sorry, we must go. The Uber is waiting outside. Come on.